Hey y'all, Amanda here with Woznica Orchards. David and I just want to show you what the beginning of pruning looks like for dwarf apple trees on a high density trellis system. Again, these are dwarf apple trees, so they will not grow to be taller than 10 to 15 feet. We capped them at 12 feet for our orchard. Right now, David is cutting back what we call feathers. Normal people would call them branches. One reason we do this is so that growth from neighboring trees does not rub against each other, which causes a lack of airflow. You'll notice he, aside from that, is also going to start cutting off the tops of any branches that are growing out and up. We take those off. The little points that you see sticking out are called fruiting spurs, and that's where fruit will come out next year. So the question is, well, how do you know what to cut or how do you know how much to cut? For all fruit trees, no matter what the size, we go by the 1/3 rule. You never want to take off more than 1/3 of your tree. Doesn't matter what size. For these trees, we are taking off just enough buds so that we have 60 to 80 apples. So if you reference a previous post we made, we talked about how the fruit for this year was already set and determined last year. So before we even began pruning, we went through and counted roughly how many apples was set for next year. And then that determined about how many we needed to cut off to be in our range. Pruning is essential for increasing airflow. We get a lot of comments. People say, oh, my trees didn't bear fruit this year, or last year I had so much fruit, but it was all very small. And that usually is a result of under pruning or over pruning. Trees are naturally biennial, especially varieties like Gala and Honeycrisp. They love to bear fruit every other year, and that is why pruning is essential. You'll also notice that bottom wire, which hits at about 2.5 feet, anything close to that wire we cut off. As springtime comes and the summer growth occurs, most of that becomes low hanging. Now, David just made an excellent cut there. So we talked about earlier, a tree has a central leader. That's the main trunk. And the feathers on this type of system, the branches, we never want the feather diameter to be larger than the central leader. So that usually is a quick assessment. We look at, okay, do we see any branches that are larger? No, then we'll continue just cutting back the feathers. If we do, then that is always our first cut. Another reason we cut back the tips of the feathers, aside from having crowding with neighboring trees, is for simple reasons of just not having branches hanging out in the middle. So when we go to bush hog, there's less damage when we drive by with the tractor. For some varieties like Fuji, we snip the ends of feathers to try to drive back the growth towards the base of the tree. As you can see, these branches are pretty small, and they're going to each bear quite a bit of fruit. So it's really essential, the further you can get the fruit to the central leader, to the trunk, the more sturdy the branch will be, less likely to break, which is always the goal. So thank you very much. If you have questions, please let us know. Again, this is Amanda with Woznica Orchards, and we look forward to next time.